When Joe landed in Australia in October 1972, cocker fever swept the country. His first shows in Sydney were triumphs, roaring crowds, glowing reviews, a cultural moment for Australian rock fans. But on the morning of the 14th of October, a knock came at the door of his Adelaide hotel room. Local police walked in, searched the room, and found marijuana. Joe and 5 members of his entourage were arrested. They spent only a few hours in custody, paid their fines, and left. In most countries, that would have been the end of it. In Australia, it was only the beginning. Certain politicians and media figures launched into a frenzy. They accused Joe of promoting moral decay. They argued he should be deported immediately.
Overnight, in Adelaide, John Robert Cocker drew the attention of the Australian press and Parliament. Labor backbencher Frank Stewart called for Cocker's deportation. Cocker was setting a dangerous example to Australian youth.
Joe, meanwhile, pressed on with the tour, arriving in Melbourne under headlines screaming, "Get out, Cocker!"
It's not really hard to see why the authorities in Australia didn't like Joe Cocker. He drank on stage, sweated profusely, and if he spoke any language at all, it wasn't theirs.
On the night of his Melbourne concert, Joe addressed the controversy with a mix of humour and defiance, telling the crowd he believed the country would come to its senses and legalise marijuana one day. The audience cheered wildly. But later that night, everything came crashing down. After the concert in Melbourne, Joe returned to the Chateau Commodore Hotel. Alcohol was flowing, tempers were frayed. In the early hours of the morning, an argument broke out between Joe and his girlfriend in the hotel foyer. Staff intervened, words were exchanged, a beer can was thrown. The hotel owner demanded Joe leave. The police were called. When they arrived, Joe, drunk, agitated, tired and emotional, ended up in a scuffle with officers. He was arrested again, this time for assault, resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. He spent the night in jail. And it was here that one of the most surreal anecdotes of Joe's life unfolded. Joe Cocker later recalled the moment with a blend of humour and disbelief. "They put me in a cell with a bank robber and an Aboriginal man accused of murder. The bank robber seemed like a nice bloke, said he had all my albums. It was an absurd, almost cinematic moment. A global rock star at his lowest point, sitting in a police cell beside a man who had robbed a bank and who also happened to be a devoted fan." By the morning, however, the humour was gone. Australia's immigration minister had made his decision. Joe Cocker had 4 hours to leave the country. The remaining tour dates were cancelled. Fans protested. Journalists blasted the decision. But the order stood, and so Joe boarded a plane and flew home, humiliated.